You're listening to Never Heard of It, a Night Shift Radio production. I as exciting as like some of those events are, I don't want it to crazy storm here like it's saying it is. Like if I'm getting an email being like, hey, your energy provider is prepared for all the down trees and power outages you're probably going to get. I'm like, dude, this is a really bad time, Mother Nature, because like everybody is basically just sitting at home. Like we can't just go somewhere when the power goes out.
That's true. And you're also like not really, where am I going with this? Like it's not really good to not have power when you're just at home.
Yeah, and I still do work. I'm still working from home. So like
because like it's still like even though it's April, it's still basically winter there. It could like brutally snow at any moment.
Yeah, it did 2 days ago. We had a crazy snowstorm all morning. It got us like an inch of snow. And then it melted almost immediately, but still.
And people probably have also stocked up on foodstuffs because of being stuck at home because of the pandemic. And the last thing people need is for that stuff to start going bad. Yeah, not a good time.
Yeah, so I think pretty much what we're getting at is Mother Nature, you need to calm the fuck down.
Yeah.
Nobody has time for this bullshit right now. How about you just chill out for a week or two, let us get our shit together, and then, come back in like late May, early June. We'll be okay.
Did you see that not only is Krakatoa erupting again, like really badly, but then there's like massive locust swarms in East Africa?
I did see that. I saw that. Yeah. I mean, like... you and I aren't very religious people, or end of days apocalypsists, doomsday preppers or anything. But if I was, I probably would have shit my pants by now.
Yeah.
I would have been like, you see, this is what I was saying.
Yeah. I mean, growing up in it, like I know all what the signs to look for, and like, it's just like every other day there's a new one. I'm like, well, that's another bowl being poured out.
You're just check. You're just waiting for the horses to come out of the clouds. You're like, riding a pale horse. Oh, there he is. Yay, we did it. The apocalypse is here.
For forever, people have been saying like this is going to be it. This is the time. And apparently like now is actually the time.
Now is actually the time. Yep. The plagues, the famine, all that stuff. But so outside of that exciting news of the weather, bigger exciting news, which is new to us, but for you guys was 2 weeks ago, the official launch of the Night Shift Radio website, nightshiftradio.com, happened, a soft launch. We'll call it a soft launch. Yeah. But the soft launch, so Night Shift Radio, if you guys are unfamiliar, is the production company that myself, Caleb, and our sound engineer and co-host of Left of the Dial, Kitsy, formed. We're basically a podcast network that helps with cultivating and creating brand new podcasts, as well as, kind of getting your word out there and stuff. So we launched our official website and announced our fourth podcast, which was we had the Superpod HeroCast guys, which we had them on our show when we did Spaghetti Man.
Yes.
Way back when. But they have officially joined Night Shift Radio as our fourth podcast. So that gives a Never Heard of It, Left of the Dial, the Storyteller series, and the Superpod HeroCast. Pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, which for those of you listening to this, the Storyteller series will have just launched. Like a week and a half previous? 2 weeks? I don't.
Math. It would have been 2 weeks as of tomorrow.
Awesome. That's really exciting. Mm-hmm. So big big things. Like we're really we're taking advantage of this time in our homes and making moves.
Yeah. We're doing what we can while we're all just sitting at home staring at our computer screens trying to be productive for you. We're doing this for you, though, just so you know.
It's for the children.
It's because they are our future. I believe this. That being said, hello and welcome to the Never Heard of It podcast. I'm your host, Michael Fight.
And I am the Mega Koi Squad.
Spectacular. Hi, guys. So we're going to talk about the movie Mega Time Squad. We're going to round out our purely coincidental month of international films.
Yeah.
Which is pretty wild. This film's from New Zealand. Not to be confused with Old Zealand. Their movies are garbage. New Zealand movies, however...
They're fucking wild, man.
It's fucking wild, dude. It's fucking wild. This is our second New Zealand film, right? Haven't we done...
It's at least the second one, because Deathgasm.
I was going to say, we did Deathgasm, right?
Deathgasm.
Oh, man, that was such a good movie, too. But
with
yeah,
Lori
so
Pops.
Yeah, that's right, Lori Pop. That's right, we had Lori Pops on, yeah. Yeah, that was fun.
Who confirmed for us that that movie was an accurate reflection of life in small town New Zealand. And I'm going to extrapolate that to say that Mega Time Squad was probably based on a true story.
Yeah. No, in New Zealand, yes. I believe that all the things that happen in Mega Time Squad are factual things that happen all the time. And if you've already seen the movie, you're going to be like, yeah, no, that's probably true. And I know that we do have a very small percentage of people that listen to us from Australia and New Zealand. And I know you guys are being, you're at home listening, being like, yeah, actually, it happened to my mate just like a month ago, actually. Fucking cunt, let me tell y'all. I'm sorry, it's true. I can't help it.
I need to take a moment and apologize to Kitsy. I switched to a different computer for recording today, and looking at the waveform, it looks like my mic might be a little hotter on this one. So... If I peek or clip it, if I peek or clip it all, I'm sorry. We can adjust that later. I'm not going to fuck with it now because I could be wrong. And that's that.
And that's that. Yeah, I'm sure they'll be fine. But yeah, so thanks a lot, guys, for listening to this episode. And don't forget to subscribe, by the way. That way you get updates, because we do episodes every week. And if you subscribe, you'll get notifications of those. And you'll be like, oh, yeah, those guys exist every week. What a great idea, right?
Yeah, it's like it's magic. I mean, I was working on the launch of the new site, and I uploaded it like an embed of the feed directly from Anchor. And yesterday, when I was working on the site, it was Liza the Fox Fairy, and today, when I was working on it, it was Vidar the Vampire. And just like magic,
it is just like magic.
There's no such thing as magic.
What was the phrase back in the Apple day? Something about magic.
Automagical?
Automagical. Yeah, that was the one. Yeah. It's automagical. Yeah.
It just works.
It just works until it doesn't.
Happening. It's all happening in a browser.
Classic. But yeah, so today we're talking about the New Zealand film Mega Time Squad. So I think we came across this film months ago. This was another one of those, like, we saw it months ago. We were like, dude, we really need to talk about that film. And then like a whole bunch of other stuff happened between, and this was another one where we kind of came back. I think we were being like, this is the time. We
haven't done the time travel movie in a bit either.
No, and in all fairness, so I was reading some of the IMDb reviews, as I am wont to do, because some of them are absolutely spectacular, and some of them are just like, this movie sucks, there was no tits, and you're like, okay, well,
First of all,
actually, in this movie there were, I think there were, right? Don't they go to like a? No, I'm thinking of another movie I watched today. Yeah, there was no boobs in this movie. Yeah, I watched Code Code 8. It was the film with Stephen Amell and Robbie Amell. Stephen Amell is Green Arrow from the Arrowverse, and Robbie Amell was his brother. So, okay, first off, we'll get back to Mega Time Squad. So Code 8 is about, like, some people in the world have superpowers, but of course all they do is evil shit with them because duh, humans are dumb. And but the thing is that Stevie Amell and Robbie Amell are brothers in real life, and they fucking look exactly alike. But they don't play brothers in the movie. So the entire time I'm like, is nobody going to bring up the fact that you fucking look exactly alike? Like, this is really weird. It literally looked like it was like Robbie Amell and then like Robbie Amell again, but with a beard. And I'm like, how is nobody like being like, it's really weird how much you guys look exactly alike. Like, nobody brought it up. They even sound the same. Like, their voices sound the same. And I'm like, dude, how is nobody talking about this? Like, it was just really weird that they didn't play brothers. Like, and it could have worked that way. Like, they definitely could have, reworked the script to make them be brothers because they spend the whole movie together. But I don't know, whatever. Anyways, Code 8 is on Netflix. It just launched. It wasn't bad. It was entertaining. And that movie did have boobs in it, but just sort of like in the background for a second. And that's where I got confused.
So if you're really jonesing for some streaming service nudity, you can get your fix on Code 8.
Code 8 on Netflix. In the background, you get a side boob while they're in a strip club. So back to Mega Time Squad. So Mega Time Squad, in reference to time travel movies, one IMDb reviewer said it was a very high level time travel film based on the scenario in which he time travels. And I'm apt to agree, but to a degree, because I don't really think it was high level in terms of the complexities of the time travel, but I thought it was very interesting how it all played out. Because there is the whole, like, but if you went to the past the first time around, the next time, everyone would be there because it would all be happening at the exact same time. But if you go the Avengers timeline of, like, no, it's a new future that you're entering, and so it all depends on your scientific point of view of time travel.
I like the way they handled time travel in this, where he's able to essentially create these like parallel copies that are like looping and like the same sequence alongside each other. But when he travels back in time, he travels to the same point every time, but stays physically where he currently is standing. So it's not like he like rewinds time and ends up back where he started. Like it will say that like the whole thing started at like 12:02 p.m. And then like he moves on and he's across town and he time travels back to 12:02 p.m. but standing right where he was when he hit the button. And I think that that's fucking clever, because then that contributes to how he has to keep the cycle going with each progressive jump.
Yeah, and it also lent to a lot of really funny moments, because there's one point where he like runs to hide out into a bathroom and he's like, oh shit, so he hits the button to time travel back, but when he goes back in time, there's like some dude taking a shit, and then he's like, oh, what the fuck? He's like, where'd you come from? It's just so funny. What I think is really funny about this too, about this whole film, is that every character reminds me of Korg from Thor Ragnarok, because everybody has that like, hey man, what you doing? Why would you do that? So like everybody's super fucking chill the whole movie, and they're kind of just like, hey, like, what's going on? Like, as they're like shooting someone's head off, it's just like everybody's got this like really casual chill to them, and I just think that's hilarious.
It's an entire cast of Taika Waititi's.
Yes, no, it really is too. It really was.
And I'm glad you said that, because the whole time I'm thinking like, who does every person in this movie remind me of? And I couldn't place it. As soon as you mentioned that character, I'm like, it's Taika.
Yeah, right? It was great. So kudos. I actually, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was cute. It was pretty fun. Time travel wise, I thought it was pretty cool. So this film was written written and directed by Tim Van Demmen. So Tim Van Demmen wrote and directed this film. He's done a few other things. So he did a Romeo and Juliet, a love song film. It's kind of like a modern Romeo and Juliet. He was the director of Wellington Paranormal, which kind of looks like a New Zealand Hot Fuzz to a degree.
Neat.
And then, of course, the big one, he played a street demon in Deathgasm. How do you like that? So there's our connection to that. And but yeah, so he hasn't done much, but pretty much the story behind this film is that he pretty much like made this on a shoestring budget. This is not a lot of money. It's a very small cast of characters, I would say, considering half the film is the one person. Like half of the cast is literally just the same guy.
True.
Who is played by Anton Tennant. So the story is Anton Tennant, Josh, is kind of a low-level thug crook, I guess. I don't know. Like, he's just kind of like he's just a minion, I guess. So pretty much he's a minion for this guy by the name of Shelton. He's kind of a nobody. He really has no, he doesn't do anything for himself. He kind of just does whatever. He's just kind of skating by life. So he botches this robbery where he's going to rob these Chinese gangsters of a shit ton of money. And as he robs them, he instead decides to take this, or as well as a bunch of money, to take this bracelet. And the old man that's there is like, no, you don't take this. And he's like, yeah, screw you, I'm going to take it. So he takes the bracelet, and basically, the old man's like, fine, you take it, but be warned, this demon's going to come after you. And he's like, fuck you. And what he learns is that when he presses the little button on the bracelet, to which he gives himself that advice, which is pretty clever. When he presses the button on the device, it sends him back in time, as we mentioned before, to this very specific moment of when the very first time he pressed the button. So that's like so it's the very first time he presses the button, or when it's activated. Because he's captured, he puts the bracelet on and it activates. So that's like his timestamp.
It takes it's just a few moments before. So there's a really great scene where we get to basically see the same scene play out from several different angles as the depth of the number of Johns there are increases. Basically, as you mentioned, John's kind of like a small-time thug in this little town of Thames, New Zealand, which is just a little kind of southeast of Auckland. And fun fact, I did look it up, and it's about a 4.5-hour drive along the north shore of the North Island to the area where Taika Waititi is from. Which
nice.
Helps explain the similarity in the accents. Possibly. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe everyone from New Zealand sounds like that. I don't know everyone from New Zealand, so.
Yeah. I mean, we only know about half of the people from New Zealand. So.
There's like 7 of them, and right. Most of them were in this movie.
Right. So it's like we know the Flight of the Conchords, Taika Waititi, Lori Pops, and Peter Jackson. So that's about 50% of the population of New Zealand right there. Just add it in.
We see that John is basically working as just kind of a low-level lackey for this guy named Shelton, who's just I don't know, he's kind of a local low life. He's like he fancies himself a crime lord, but he's not really much of anything really.
Yeah.
Was he? I guess it maybe could have been rugby. I don't know rugby well enough, but the way he was talking at his TV, it sounded like he was watching American football, because he starts yelling, "No, don't kick it, run it in."
Oh yeah, I think that would be rugby then, because I know it's very similar, but yeah.
So yeah, it's Shelton who says, the Chinese are moving in on my territory. They're going to be making a drop at this antique shop later, and I need you to take care of it. And John kind of hems and haws at the idea of it, and he turns to his mate Gaz and is like, what do you think? And Sheldon's like, no, not what he thinks. Like, you're gonna fucking do it. And I'm like, okay. And so afterwards, sitting around at their local diner throwing back 40s like you do,
in New Zealand, like you do, yeah.
Just casually crushing some 40s. I probably has at least 5 of them and doesn't seem the least bit affected. Which, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they're sitting around talking, and Gaz kind of has this like, really, I mean, the money's just going to be sitting there. Like anyone could just take it. And John's like, what are you trying to say? Well, I'm not saying anything, but like, I'm just saying that like anybody could just take it. And John's like, you mean like us? Like, we shouldn't even be talking about this. Well, we're not really talking about this. Like, just, it could be done. And John's like, no, we can't betray Shelton. But then, he runs into who we later learn is Shelton's sister, Kelly, who we first meet while she's assembling a bomb vest.
Yeah.
With the words "surprise, motherfucker" written on it,
which is just brilliant.
They first meet at Shelton's house. She comes across John while he's standing in kind of cheersing to his parents' grave with yet more 40s, and they have this whole heart to heart about how he's a better man than he thinks, and then he just kind of needs to like man up. Basically, there's a recurring theme that he's got no nuts.
He's got to grow some nuts.
He's got to grow some nuts.
You got to grow some nuts. And he has the conversation with himself in the mirror, which I think is hilarious. He's like, yeah, you got nuts? You got to grow some nuts. Well, there's no one else here.
Whose nuts are these? And so he walks away. He's smitten with her and thinks, you know what? You're right. I've got to do this. I can break away from Shelton and I can do this on my own. Which maybe like, yes, she does directly encourage him to do that, but maybe that wasn't the takeaway that he should have had. Like maybe it should have been more like, get your fucking life together. But that doesn't move the plot along quite so well. Right. And so he gives Gaz a call up and says like, no more talking. We're going to do this.
And then, of course, Gaz, who is his bumbling friend, is like, shows up with his gun. He's like, oh, I got this gun from my mom. It's like this. He's like, are you sure that thing even works? And he's like, yeah. It's like, it's kind of long. It's like, which is pretty great. So their big scheme is to rob this store, which the Chinese have hidden a bunch of money inside of a tire.
Which is a great bit.
This is a brilliant bit.
Because the dude rolls up in like a Lexus or something like that and starts rolling a tire and John's like, that's it. That's the money. And Gaz is like, what are you talking about? He's like, what do you think they're bringing a tire to an antique store? You think it's Napoleon's tire? Still got a little bit of tread on it. All right, fuck off.
All right. So off they go. They rob the store. He gets his bracelet, and just as he does, they're escaping, and he ends up getting busted by, of course, Shelton's crew, who have found out that that John has kind of gone behind his back to take the money. So at this point, this is where we lead up to where John is going to press the button for the very first time. So before we do that, before we get into the first button press and the rest of the film, let's go ahead and take a very quick break. And then when we come back, we will wrap up with or talk about the rest of the movie with John and John and John and John and John and John and John. Okay, we'll be right back.
Yeah, all right.
Hello, I'm Casey Ryan.
And I'm Todd Panic.
Join us on the Superpod HeroCast
as we drink beers and talk about movies with capes.
Superhero movies. The good, the bad, the mutants?
Sure, let's go with that.
From Batman the movie to the latest blockbuster.
Great movie? Sweet. We'll tell you why.
Absolute bomb? We're going to watch it anyways. And our misery is your entertainment.
Get the latest episode, grab your cape, and join us on the Superpod HeroCast as we save the universe.
One superhero movie at a time.
Hey, so I don't know if you noticed, but it looks like we've got another Anchor ad.
Oh.
So I guess we should talk about that. And I think we probably can't talk about Anchor without throwing out there right off the bat, like, it's free.
Free?
Can you believe it? It's free.
Wow. And I hear that there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
And if you're lazy like us, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. So it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and I think some more too. I think many more.
That's fantastic because it's so much work going to all of those platforms.
It's so much.
And you could make money from your podcast with no minimum amount of people. So if you only have one friend that listens, you can still make some cash.
Like us.
Yeah.
And, it really is everything you need to make a podcast. Just in one place, one-stop shop.
Wow, one place. Well, you should go ahead and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today.
Like right now. But, I mean, after the episode.
Hello and welcome back. So when we left you, that was purely by accident. John was kind of discovered by Shelton and his crew that he was going to, that he's basically going to go behind their backs and take this money and kind of peel off. So John's been captured, and it turns out that the reason they find out is because Gaz, John's best friend, rats him out, narcs him because he's afraid of Shelton. So you kind of get this moment of like, what the fuck, dude? Like your best friend rats you out, and that sucks. So he's captured. He basically. So what happens is the Shelton guy has Gaz's gun, and he was like, Gaz, shoot him. And he was like, I can't, I'm not going to shoot him. Like, yeah, I ratted him out, but I'm not going to shoot him. So he hands it to his bodyguard guy. What was the bodyguard's guy named? Ted or something?
Damage.
Damage, but was it Damage who, it was Damage who shoots the gun.
Yeah,
but it's the other guy.
Who else wants to do it? And just without missing a beat, Damage like, yeah, me. Are you?
Yeah, me, I'll do it. Yeah, what was the guy's name?
Teddy.
The big guy. Teddy is the big guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Gaz or Damage is aiming down the sights, and he's going to shoot John as he's being held. And at this point, they've just put the bracelet on him, and his hands are behind his back. And he shoots the gun, and of course, because the gun is was set up wrong and all messed up, it backfires and shoots Teddy in the eyeball,
which is hilarious.
Like, oh, my fucking eye! He just falls in, and he's just so casual about it. Like it was great. He got shot in the eye with a fucking gun, and he was just like, meh, And so at this point, John kind of wriggles free. He hauls ass out of there, and he ends up like hiding off in this old little camper. And he gets in this little camper, and he's like ducked down, and he looks over, and there he sees John himself sitting and hiding under a tarp, to which himself is like, press the button, and he was like, oh, what the fuck? And he just runs out of there, and the other John leans out, press the button, you'll know when. So he's running, and this is the part where he gets up and he gets caught again. Right, this is where he's about to get caught. He's about to get shot, and he clicks the button, and it sends him back to that just the moment. So he gets sent back to exactly where he is, and he's just outside of the like the little, I don't know, warehouse like shed barn type thing that he's being held in, and he hears the gun go off, and he hears Teddy go, oh fuck, my eye. He's like, oh, what the? And he was like, wait a minute. And so he sees that he's running out, he sees himself running out, he's like, oh shit, I gotta go hide. And of course he goes and hides in the camper in the exact spot that he saw the John previously. So he basically copied his action from the other John that he saw from himself. So wait, what? It gets a little tricky. This is where time travel is tricky.
It does get confusing, and you have to follow it really closely. But essentially, each time he travels back, he has to ensure that he completes whatever his part of the loop is. And so in traveling back the first time, he has to be the one then that is there to warn himself. And then in traveling back the next time, and then that's when he decides to partner up with himself and start their own gang, a squad.
A squad.
Time Squad.
The Time Squad. Mega
Time Squad. And so, of course, each time they make some sort of change, one of them has to go back to be, to ensure that that cycle continues, that it's never broken. Which that set of rules and behavior and stuff like that in and of itself is really interesting. I'm not I feel like they do a pretty good job of keeping the continuity there. I'm not entirely sure that they keep continuity with the lore of the bracelet, because the old man at the pawn shop tells him the story of this great ancient Chinese warrior Wali, who for whom the bracelet was first made, because he was a great warrior that wanted to stop this endless cycle of war in his homeland, and so he used the bracelet to ensure that he could have victory over his enemies and be revered as this great warrior. But all of that, the victory and the prestige and the wealth that followed wasn't quite enough. He was a bit too curious of what it would be like to meet himself. But as we learn, once you meet yourself, that's when the demon comes.
Right. But to my knowledge, the demon never actually comes. So was the demon metaphorical?
I think so. And that's where it gets really interesting, because the demon in the story is portrayed as though it's a literal demon that comes and kills him. But what we see actually happens is this chain of events that gets set off once he starts interacting with past versions of himself. It's like the paradox correcting itself, where at some point those other selves start to get killed off in various ways. So at one point, two of them decide to pull off a bank heist because they're like, "Fuck it, we'll just get our own money." Because the Chinese triad wants their money back, and they're like, how we can't steal from Shelton again, so we'll just get the money a different way. They bust into this bank, and one of them is immediately shot by this middle-aged woman with a shotgun.
With a giant fucking shotgun that she just was carrying around.
And so the other one goes back and starts the loop again, but this time, he sneaks into the bank first and subtly steals the shotgun from the woman, so that when she goes to draw it to shoot them, she can't. But again, as time goes on, and there's now 7 or 8 of them, they start to fight amongst themselves, and accidents start happening. There was air quotes there.
Yeah.
So I think the demon in this case might have been a metaphor for the time travel paradox correcting itself. Whereas if you were able to do all this and avoid ever encountering yourself, the paradox would never have to correct. Which is a really clever way of doing that, because they never try to talk about time travel paradox. It's all done in metaphor, and then lets it play out. And he goes about his business genuinely concerned that there might actually be this demon that's hunting him.
Yeah, almost through until the end of the movie, until he kind of gets the idea of oh, yeah, so there really isn't a demon. The demon is is yourself. So I think about that because one of my really favorite 90s movies is Multiplicity, which stars Michael Keaton and Andy McDowell. So Michael Keaton clones himself because he gets so busy and wrapped up with his work that he's so busy that he's I can't do any of the other things I want to do. I want to go golfing, I want to go fishing, I want to paint my house or whatever. And he's there's just all these things. So he duplicates himself and creates a clone so he can send the clone off to work while he gets to go off and do those things. But, as he goes, he then makes another clone because he's oh, well, someone still has to, I still have to be with my wife, but I still have to take care of the other things. And then those clones end up making a clone of those clones. And it's this really goofy guy because they're well, you're making a copy of a copy. So it's not exactly great. Hilarious film. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend watching it. But the point of me saying this whole story is, what happens is the clones basically, since they're cloned versions of him and they have his memories up to the moment of him being cloned, they're eventually here's the thing, Doug, you made me so you could have more time, but I want to have time too. I want to go fishing. I want to go golfing. I still love my wife. That's my wife. I still want to be with her. So there's kind of this clone descent where they're all yeah, you created us, but we're still you. And that's kind of the same thing that Josh is having. And the trouble is, in one instance, he was well, this is my girl and this is my money, and the other one's like, yeah, but that's my girl and my money, too. 'Cause he's like, it's like I'm you too, and there is that moment where there's like 5 or 6 of them in a room, and they're all basically not trusting one another to grab the money and just fucking haul ass out of there, and that would happen. I wouldn't fucking trust myself. If I made a clone of myself and I'm like, no way, dude, like you're going to try to do all the cool things and not like the shit jobs that I cloned you for, because I don't want to do the shit jobs either. Like, I don't want to do my dishes. My clone's not going to want to do them either.
I think I could work it out.
You think you could work it out? It would have to be a balance.
I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I think I could work it out.
In this essay, I will.
In this essay, I will attempt to prove to you the viability of the action of cloning myself multiple times.
I mean, the technology is basically there. Like, I feel like we could. I think at some point China did in fact clone a person, didn't they? And then they got in like a lot of trouble a few years ago about it.
I do not remember for sure if it was a person or just another more complex animal. I mean, obviously there was the sheep that made headlines. But yeah, I've spent a lot of time thinking about it.
About this?
About being a clone.
Yeah, I mean,
I saw another version of myself again walking around town the other day.
Oh yeah?
It was like 2 weeks ago. We were coming back from the grocery store, and a block ahead of me, just close enough to like see fairly well, but not close enough to like gain any ground on and like confirm. But I saw a person dressed almost exactly like me. The only difference was instead of a solid black t-shirt, it was a black t-shirt with like slightly different colored sleeves, which in another life is something I would have done. Yeah. Same shape of body, same gait, same like hair color and like basic style.
That's interesting.
It was enormously off-putting. Like we've already talked about the version of myself that's like
from the future,
from the future, from the past,
or from the past,
who like very clearly came here from another parallel universe, and that was an older version of me who had like traveled back and lived out his life. This was one who was like roughly on the same path
like
as me. I mean,
parallel time. Yeah,
it's hard to tell from behind because my hair has looked like this for so long that like it doesn't really give a good sense of age. But like definitely at least in like his 30s, if not like the same age as me. It's very strange.
Interesting. Yeah, I always think about that. Like, if I were to like reset time somehow, like maybe travel back in time, or like parallel universe me, like would I just like let's say you go to a parallel universe, like somehow you trip and fall in a manhole, and then like you just flip out on the other side, and you're just in a completely parallel version of your world that's almost exactly like your world. Like, what do? I mean, do you just kind of like try to adapt and go about your business? Do you spend your time dedicated to trying to get back? Like how do you survive? Like, how do you, if you think of it as a society of this, like if I popped into this dimension from my dimension, I mean, do I use my social security number? Are my bank cards going to work? Is my phone going to work? Is it going to call the other dimension? Is it going to call my dimension? Like, how does that work?
So and this is another thing I spend a lot of time thinking about. The first thing would be to assess if in traveling through dimensions you also made any kind of temporal shift. So like if I managed to go back in time into another parallel universe, I would absolutely seek out and influence the path of other me's life. If I just simply like sidestepped into the same point in time in a parallel universe, I would still go seek myself out. But at this point, it's kind of too late to like influence the past. Now it's just like let's grab a beer.
Yeah, right. Like, well, like I love to talk to myself, and this time I can actually talk back. You know, like, well, at least more so.
Makes me that much more stressed out that like I couldn't catch up with and like talk to this other version of me the other day because like, what the fuck is his deal? Like,
Right.
I would go talk to him. If
Hell
it
yeah.
were me. No, why the fuck? Like, are there?
'Cause it could be.
Like, did he like he learned very quickly that there were rules and consequences? Is that why like things are so fucked up right now? Because like he came to our universe and made the wrong decisions.
Right.
Did I ruin 2020?
God damn it, Caleb. Yeah, so there's the really great 80s movie Time Cop starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. And one of the rules is the same, you know, it's about time travel, and he is a cop that monitors people that time travel. And one of the rules is the same matter can't occupy the same space. So basically, if you go back in time and if you run into yourself, you physically can't touch each other because you're the same matter. You're made of the exact same thing. And so a scenario happens where a person from the future touches themselves from the person of the past, and they essentially like cancel each other out, you know, so they basically both cease to exist because the matter hits each other and just, you know, whatever's into oblivion or whatever. Really, really crazy movie. You don't have to watch that one. That you can skip that one. but odds are, given the age that we now see, analytic wise, speaking of the people who listen to this podcast, the age and gender, I'm going to guess you've probably already seen that movie because you definitely grew up right around the same time as us. And you're like, dude, fuck yeah, Time Cop, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Crazy. He does the split in his underpants in the kitchen thing, and the guy gets electrocuted.
Oh, Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, fucking Time Cop, man. Fucking Jean-Claude Van Damme. Still, it's crazy. Because, like, you watch Jean-Claude Van Damme films, and they're all the same sort of thing. It's like, you know, Jean-Claude Van Damme is like this outsider, and he's a former army legionnaire cop, blah, and he's like, oh, I just don't want any trouble. I'm just trying to escape my life or whatever. And then, pretty girl, I've stumbled onto trouble. Well, I've got to save the day. I'm going to do a split in the air, and fuck yeah, I saved the day. Like, that's every Jean-Claude Van Damme film you have ever seen in your life. And you cannot tell me that I'm wrong. That's even the story of Universal Soldier. And that movie is about, like, you know, cyborgs and stuff. But then you watch the movie JCVD and you're like, I kind of feel bad for him. Like, like, you know, he's just known as, you know, tornado kicking Jean-Claude Van Damme, but like, dude's got a rough life. He's got many a girlfriend to beat up and child services to not pay. Yeah, this is your friendly reminder that Jean-Claude Van Damme is actually a terrible person. He was an abuser, and he ignores his kids. And he even brings it up in his movie, JCVD, which is about his life. Like, he talks about, he's like, yeah, well, I punched my wife or whatever. And he's like, oh, my kids are calling. I don't want to talk to them. And it's like, what the fuck? You're like, what the fuck, dude? It's really weird. But then there's the show Jean-Claude Van Johnson on Amazon, which is pretty funny, where he plays Jean-Claude Van Damme, but his real name is Jean-Claude Van Johnson, and he's Jean-Claude Van Damme to the public, and he's an actor, but he's secretly a spy with the real name of Jean-Claude Van Johnson. And like, the only reason why he goes to make movies in like these weird places is because he's going to do spy things there, and the movie is just a cover up for it. Really weird. Funny show, really fucking weird. And that's my tangent of the day. We went from time travel to Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Do you remember Best of the Best?
Mm-hmm. Dude. I mean, that's the thing. Like, Jean-Claude Van Damme, you know, I recently saw, in relation to this, I recently saw this thing on Twitter that's like, you're getting jumped by 30 ninjas. You have to pick 3 people from the list, from like the grid below, to come and help you out. And, you know, it's like Jean-Claude Van Damme, Chuck Norris, like RZA was on there, I think, or what's his name? Yeah, RZA, the guy that, you know, I think. And
from the Wu-Tang?
Yeah, the one that does all the martial art movies now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was him. He was in the movie True Legend. I think it was RZA. I may be mistaken the name. But yeah, Jean-Claude Van Damme's in there, like Jet Li, Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Donnie Yen, all very famous fighters, martial artists. There was like one wrestler person in there, and I'm like, get that fucking person out of here. But they were like, okay, pick 3. And the running joke, everyone was like, oh, Chuck Norris, and then 2 more to just watch. And I'm like, yeah, but like, have you ever watched Chuck Norris like actually do martial arts? Like, yeah, he was like world renowned. Like he won a lot of tournaments and stuff like that. And he was like world class, but like, he's pretty fucking terrible. Like, you watch him in, so he's the bad guy in Big Boss, the Bruce Lee movie. And that's the famous scene where Bruce Lee rips out his chest hair and like blows it off of his hand. It's a really great scene. He grabs Chuck Norris by the chest hair and rips it. And
Ow.
and he blows it off his head. Super fucking badass. But I mean, it's a crazy fight scene, but when you watch it, Chuck Norris really only has like 2 or 3 moves. He's got that spin kick and a couple of throws, and that's about it. And Bruce Lee is like, throwing, 4 punches every half second, and Chuck Norris is like, hey, Todd, I'm going to spin my heel back up over your head, son. I'm like, dude, you're fucking terrible. But, I mean, the obvious answer is you would choose Donnie Yen. Donnie Yen's a great fighter.
Was David Carradine on the list?
I don't think he was actually, which is interesting because of the whole like kung fu movie, which by the way was invented by Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee wrote the pilot for Kung Fu, and he pitched it to his studio, and the studio just stole it from him because he was supposed to star in the David Carradine role, and they stole it from him. Yeah, and it was like this big deal, and he was like going to try to sue them, and they were basically like, no, too bad, you didn't copyright it. Thanks, loser. And then he died like 2 years later or something. But yeah, pretty crazy story. Yeah, Kung Fu was originally made by that. But in related news, they're going to remake a Kung Fu series, actually.
Ooh.
So they're remaking again, but it's going to be female-fronted Kung Fu. So the character of David Carradine will be played by a woman this time.
I'm into it.
Yeah, no, I think it sounds cool. And it's going to be modern times. She wanders the land solving crime with her fists. Like, fuck yeah, dude. Why would I not watch that? But anyways, back to Mega Time Squad. We've ranted for 15 minutes now. So as we've learned, there's a lot of instances. So we see, one instance, John gets his throat cut. We see the scene at the bank where he gets shot by the shotgun. There's a really great line, where Shelton and his crew are like, they're like, all right, we're going to go get this bastard. And at this point, they kind of don't know that there's multiple Johns. Like, they're just kind of like, this is a weird situation. And, the one guy was like, Terry was like, hey, let's, we've got to get all these guns. And he was like, this is, Parai, Terry, not America. We're not made of guns. It's a fucking great line.
It's like, I want a gun too.
We're not made of guns. It's a fucking great line. But so they go off and they're trying to capture him. And it's, so they eventually, Josh and his crew has figured out this way. They're going to break in, they're going to rescue Kelly. And they're going to, get out of there because Kelly's kind of like, she's there, but she's not really into like what they're doing. Like, she's kind of being forced into it, to a degree. So he's like, all right, we're going to go rescue Kelly. Cause like, they had a connection, and then he's going to grab the money. They're going to, hightail out of there and deal with it later. And then, Joshes start getting killed every which way. And now it gets down to the point where we're towards the end of the movie, and there's only like 2 Joshes left at this point. And so Josh, he's talking. He finally like goes back to the store, with the old Chinese guy, and the old Chinese guy's like, explains in greater detail about the story and about what happens. And he's like, look, like, did you ever think that maybe you needed to grow some nuts? And he was like, and he was like, but he's like, well, you thought you would go off and do this and you would get the money and get the girl, right? And he was like, well, yeah, I did. And he was like, no, you and all your clone people did. You didn't do it by yourself. Like, you need to stand up and do this on your own. So if we extrapolate the story from the beginning, so the monster, I guess, the demon that's coming after him is like the idea of relying on the time travel. So the jealousy of it.
I actually really like how they tied back in the demon, because there's a point when all of the Johns are gathered together, like trying to plan their next move, and they realize that like things are starting to go like fucked up for them, and they're like, which one of you didn't push the button, like who didn't do their part to reset the loop, and like every single one of them was like, well, I did. It must have been you. Like, no, I did. And like basically like every single one of them claims to have done it, so like there's this implication that maybe there's another one of them. And like at the very end, like one last one reveals himself wearing like the mask and this like cloak and everything from the antique shop, and it's the mask of the demon. And so John, the one surviving John that we thought was the last one, was like, wait, so there was no demon? It was you all along? He's like, well, yeah, I didn't trust any of you cunts with the money.
Which is fantastic. And again, that's kind of the, maybe that's the metaphor of it is it's the demon is yourself, that like you're going to come back and, try to do. Yeah. Cause that's the thing they were trying to figure out, because one person, is that the story that one of them never presses the button?
Yeah.
Right. So like each time they go back and they create another copy, like one of them is just the start to finish person. And that's the one that comes back as the demon, right? That's the demon one.
Oh, I wonder.
Well, because
we do never find out like who the final one is.
Right. So, like the last one. I mean, our assumption is it's the one that ends up with Kelly in the end. He ends up with Kelly in the end.
Well, the very first one presses the button once, because he's like, he does it as he's getting drowned.
Yep.
So at some point along the way, there's one more who gets generated who doesn't.
Yeah, so that would be the last one, right?
Yeah.
The last one that's created was the one that didn't, although technically they did press the button because they were the one that pressed it to go back. I don't know. Anyways, brain scratchy. But yeah, so in the end, we get the big, he's basically facing off to Shelton. Shelton, has him down on his knees. He's got the gun to him, and he was like, all right, here we go. I'm gonna shoot you. Like, this is it. And he was like, no, you're not. And he was like, what do you mean? He was like, you're not. Like, you're not going to shoot me. Like, you use these lackeys and these people because you're scared and you don't want to do it yourself. And he was like, fuck you. And he's like, no, you're just going to push it onto someone else and they're going to want to shoot it. And he was like, Terry, shoot him. And he was like, actually, he's kind of right. And honestly, I've just been working this job. Like, I hate this job, but I've just been working it to pay for night school so I can get a real job. And he was like, what the fuck? Damn it, you do it. And he was like, yeah, I don't really want to do that. And he was like, what the fuck is going on? And of course, at this point, which is hilarious, the young Chinese kid that they robbed in the very beginning of the movie comes back, shoots up Sheldon, goes to take the money, and he takes the money and he's like, you guys are a bunch of fucking assholes. Like, and he takes the money and he runs off after Gaz redeems himself with his little fucking slingshot. Gaz is slingshotting the Chinese kid to stop him from shooting John. Which, by the way, I was calling him Josh a bunch. I apologize to all of our listeners if that confused you. His name is John.
First of all, how dare you?
Yeah, I have the gall. But yeah, so he, so at this point, the Chinese guy's like, fine, fuck off. I'll run off with the money. He runs off with the bag, and he gets back to his place. He opens the bag, and what is inside of it? Of course, the thing from earlier.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Surprise, motherfucker. It's the explosion vest from before, and of course he blows up, and that's all taken care of. So now John has his girl. He's got the money. She even shows she was the one who swapped them, and he was like, look, I've got all the money. So they stop at like this gas station, and that's when we see John as the other demon, and basically they come to an agreement. And he was like, look, you take the money, I'll stay with Kelly, and we'll both go our separate ways. And so they do. And as they're driving off, Kelly was like, you gave back the money, didn't you? And he's like, yeah, I did. The end.
To be with me? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of sweet. Because there's a couple points in the movie where I felt like it was going to be one of those where like turns out the hero is actually a total like piece of shit and like gets no redemption and doesn't learn any lessons and whatnot, but like actually kind of does. He's still kind of a dick, but it all works out in the end.
Yeah, because I mean, really, the bigger overarching theme is all about like having the courage to stand up for yourself, taking responsibility for your own life and that kind of thing, and he does finally have the courage to do so, and that's kind of his big, that's his big thing. He gets the girl, he grows some nuts, and your nuts are a lot bigger than you think. and then he heads off, and it's a cute little movie. So Mega Time Squad is streaming right now, of course, on Tubi TV, but you can also watch it on Amazon Prime Video.
Neat.
Yeah. And so should you watch this movie if you haven't already? Absolutely. This is a super fun movie. It's great. It's a really good head scratcher if you want to like really dig apart the time travel part, because there's a lot of like, we left out a lot of like the intricacies of each different iteration of John, when they come back and they all, come up with their schemes and how they get around everybody. So it's cool. It's a good movie. I highly recommend it. And I look forward to seeing what else comes out of this guy. So if you are familiar at all, so Mega Time Squad. So Shelton was played by Johnny Brew, and Johnny Brew plays Deacon in What We Do in the Shadows. So if you're familiar with that, highly recommend. Of course, I highly recommend checking that out. But he plays one of the vampires in What We Do in the Shadows. So pretty funny, good stuff. So there's our connection to Taika Waititi, and he was also in Power Rangers Dino Thunder as a Roomba monkey. I don't know what that means, but
apparently the town that they have to go to a couple times when they're supposed to deliver the money back to the Triad is home to a monument that is just a giant bottle of a local lemon beverage.
It's fucking spectacular. Yeah, it's a Priora.
Something like it's Paeroa, and I think it's a
Priora.
I think it's a Maori name. And yeah, it's just this giant bottle, which makes me think of not too far outside of St. Louis on the Illinois side is the world's largest bottle of ketchup. It's true.
That's spectacular. I don't know. Is there like a World's something here? I don't think there's a World's anything in Syracuse.
Yeah, I don't know. I love the idea that just like around the world are these like kitschy monuments that like I feel like a lot of like rural America is known for them, but like it gives me comfort to know they exist in New Zealand too.
Right. It's like it's an international thing of like the world's giant bottle of lemon stuff. Yeah. That's great. What a great thing. We should go to New Zealand one day.
I would absolutely love to.
Yeah, let's do that. I know you can't dance there from old Zealand. That's a Scrubs quote. But yeah, so Mega Time Squad streaming on Tubi TV for free, no sign up required. All you got to do is just search Mega Time Squad and watch it. It's awesome. And then, of course, if you're already subscribed to Prime Video, it's also available on Prime Video. So if you'd like to watch it without any commercials, do so. But yeah, so that's this episode that ends our incidental international month. So
our trip around the world on accident.
On accident. But next month we are throwing a theme at you, a purposeful theme, actually. And we're kind of like on the verge of like, is this insensitive or is it hilarious? So what's our theme going to be?
We're bringing you Apocalypse May. Because at this point, a month and a half in, I think we've both gone a bit stir crazy, and we're just gonna dive right in, just all the way in on the theme, and we're gonna watch some mostly terrible apocalypse movies. Although a couple of them do look very, very good. I'm actually really excited. So.
Yeah. It's going to be good. I'm also pretty excited. I think about, we were talking about like, is this going to be insensitive or is this, going to be funny? And, I think it's going to be funny because I hope that by May hits, we'll be on our way out of this pandemic, but you never know.
I think we need a little lighthearted acceptance right now to just ease some of the tension.
Right. I felt bad because like in like February when this was kind of like really picking up steam and, we started to kind of get the, impression that it was definitely hitting here stronger than just a few cases. I made the joke of like, will I get COVID-19 if I haven't seen the first 18 of them? And I thought it was really funny. And then like, everything started happening and I was like, maybe that joke was in bad taste. But you know what? I'm going to stick by it.
It's that good gallows humor.
Right. I dig it. I still think it works, but terrible thing that's happening nonetheless. But all right. So if folks out there listening wanted to go to a website to learn specifically about Never Heard of It, where would they go?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that. If you want to know specifically about Never Heard of It, you can visit thenahoit.com. That's THENHOIT.com. And of course, as always, we have our upcoming schedule of movies. So if you want to join us in celebrating Apocalypse May, you can check out what we'll be watching and watch along with us. We'll have links to trailers as well as where you can find these movies streaming if available. And then, you can always leave us a comment on there. Tell us like, guys, your humor is in poor taste. Fuck off. Or like make a suggestion on a movie you'd like to hear us talk about. Of course, if you're interested at all, you can also visit us on the brand new nightshiftradio.com. And hopefully by the time this episode airs, I will have ironed out all of the typos and fleshed it out to more than 2 active pages. But Michael, where else can they find us?
Oddly enough, we are also on social media at the Nahoit Podcast.
What?
I tell ya. It's a thing. So we are the NHOIT Podcast on both Twitter and Instagram. And on both those places, not only can you see what's coming up for our next film, but we'll also show you clips of past episodes, the week's episode, as well as trailers and stuff like that to what's going on. So you can kind of, play along at home by getting an idea of what the film is coming up next, watch it, and then join us every single Sunday. Because of course you've subscribed, so you already know that every episode's coming every Sunday.
Isn't there one other new place that people can check out our episodes?
Yes. Is there
somewhere like maybe a more visual medium?
Oh, a more visual medium?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea. Is there?
Is there?
Did I miss this?
Did you already say? Did you mention the YouTube channel? I wasn't paying attention.
Oh, I haven't. No, honestly. That's right. No, that's great. I totally forgot. So just a couple of weeks ago, we launched on YouTube. So you can have episodes playing directly on YouTube. Right now, it shows you album art and then has the entire episode on our YouTube channel. So if you search Never Heard of It podcast, it'll pop right up. But of course, there is a link in our profile right down below. If you're, either in Apple Podcast or Google or Spotify, the link to our YouTube channel is right there. So definitely feel free to go there and drop a subscribe as well, because new episodes get posted. Normally it's either same day or the day after, whenever the video finally gets generated and uploaded to YouTube. The entire full episode will be there. So YouTube, and maybe something cooler eventually. Maybe you'll actually see faces. Well, no, we're working on it.
Madness.
It's madness, I tell you, madness. I don't know. That might be a movie quote. I don't know. It just came out of my mind this is probably a movie. So, but all right, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. We appreciate it, and we will see you next episode.
Yes. Goodbye.